I'm your moderator and host, Sylvia Gutierrez, with the U.S. Small Business Administration. Today's program is made possible by the SBA, Riverside County EDA, and the Greater Corona Valley Chamber of Commerce. Our topic is localized cable television marketing. The goal of today's program is to help you, the business owner and sales manager, better understand what cable television marketing is, who can use it, and how to use it effectively, what the costs are, and more. Our guest panelists include Dwight Cromie, president of Alltech Media Group, a regional advertising agency that has been using cable marketing to help his clients since the beginning in the mid-'80s. Dean Bergstrom, owner of Ancho's Southwest Grill and Bar, one of the most successful family-owned restaurants in the inland Southern California region. The restaurant has been using cable marketing for over 20 years. And Doug Walker, local sales manager for Time Warner Cable. Doug will help us understand the options you have available when considering cable marketing for your business. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show, CEO's Roundtable. We have some questions, and the first question we're going to ask Dwight to tell us, how is cable TV advertising different than local TV or other forms of advertising?
The real difference between localized cable advertising than, say, broadcast television advertising is the fact that you can target your geographic market much more effectively, and you can also target your demographics much more effectively. Because the cable company sells their advertising in what they call zones or in city regions, which makes it much easier for, like Dean here, to target his backyard. So that's what makes cable television advertising very, very effective for a wide range of clients.
That's a perfect answer. I'll add to that. In addition to being geographic targeting when you're looking at local television on cable, broadcast, the name indicates, is meant for a broad audience. So an NBC, an ABC, a CBS, by definition, they have to be all things to all people in the household. Whereas cable has, hundreds of channels, and many of those channels are top channels with very specific tight niches. So you have news channels, 24-hour news, you have 24-hour sports channels. You have programming that's geared for young people, programming that's geared for moms, for dads. Everyone in the household has networks that speak to them, and the programming is specifically targeted to them. So when you combine the power of television, the power of geographic targeting, and the power of niching out a market, you end up with a very powerful tool to reach your customers.
Yes.
And then to add on that, versus, say, radio advertising, for radio advertising, you have to buy a much larger geographic market. And usually you have to spend a lot more money to effectively reach that market than you do on localized cable.
For example, in the Inland Empire alone, we have 10 different zones. Those 10 zones reach 290,000 homes. And so the ability to reach that many people gives us the ability to have a broad reach if that's your need. But if you just want to reach the community of Riverside, we can do that for you as well.
That is wonderful. So now, Dean, maybe you can tell us better your testimony of how advertising has been effective for your company.
Well, local cable television advertising, we've been using it for over 20 years. We continue to use it, so obviously it's been very successful for us. We've managed to have a great amount of success here in the local market. We started using it in the 1990s, and because of those specific areas we're able to target, we can also kind of see where our guests are and where we need to put more input, whether we need to ramp up a certain amount of cable advertising as time goes on, or certain times maybe back off, or we can measure, say, if we're going to maybe target and try an experimental, maybe target an outlying area to see if we draw guests in from that area, and we can make those measures, so it helps us ascertain better opportunities to run our business.
Yes, and reach new clients as well.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and that's constant. One of the things we've also noticed is as much cable advertising as you throw out there, there's still always constantly new people moving into the area, new development coming, and it's amazing when you go back and target a certain area and you'll have somebody come in that, hey, we just found out about you and we just moved into the area and here we are.
That's really wonderful.
One of the benefits that Dean has is in this market, there is about 3 to 4 different ways he can buy cable marketing. One was with Time Warner, one was Verizon. Now we can buy AT&T. So by buying those different types of cable, he's been able to reach different types of markets. Yes. So like he said, we'll change it up a little, and all of a sudden he's got a great many new clients. But what a lot of people have to understand that with cable marketing or any marketing, it's not something you do for a few weeks and you stop. It's something you've got to do continually. Like Dean said, he's been doing it for nearly 22 years, and it's been very effective. I have a lot of clients have a hard time with that, and I say, well, you know where McDonald's are. You know what a Coke tastes like. Yes. Why do they advertise? It's out of sight, out of mind. If you're not in front of your market or your clients on a daily basis, you will not get their business.
Yes, and let's explain a little bit more, reaching different markets. Do you mean adults, career professionals in the area? What are the best hours to reach your different markets?
Really kind of depends. I mean, obviously that evening hour is always a key time, but I can tell you a time back in the 90s when midnight was a wonderful time to reach our clients.
Okay.
That's a long story. I don't know if Dwight and I want to talk about that one, but it's we just kind of have to measure when those certain times are.
One of the common mistakes we see small and medium businesses make is they want to advertise when their phones are open. They want to advertise when there's someone there to answer a phone, and the important thing to understand about television is that's not how it works. Okay. The way television works is you're capturing the share of someone's mind, so when they think of a restaurant, they think of your restaurant. When they think of your product, they think of when they think of your category, they think of your product. And the best time to do that is when people are watching TV. So if you're trying to reach seniors, retired folks, daytime is a great time to reach them. If you're trying to reach working moms, you can't be on in the daytime. Even though your phones aren't open on the weekends and at night, you're not going to reach a working mom during the day. So it depends on who your audience is and when they're watching and when it's the most cost effective to reach that audience. That's going to allow you to have the most impact. And then trust that when they need your product, they're going to come and find you because you've captured the mind share of that consumer.
And so people understand a little bit better about cable marketing and buying, as Dean was alluding to, is there's several ways to buy cable marketing. One is what they call a run-of-schedule schedule, and that's normally from 6 in the morning to midnight. That's probably the most inexpensive way to buy television, and for some clients it's very effective because they reach a broad market. They reach some people in the morning. Like Dean, he has a broad market. Yes. A lot of people go to his restaurants. So run-of schedule's effective for him. If you're a customer where you need to get the decision maker or the financial maker, prime time's a better way to buy TV, where you buy just prime time, which is normally 4 to midnight is the average time. You can also buy fixed programming. So if you want to be, you're a sporting goods store and you want to be on the football game, you need to buy the football game or what the top rated show is. So there's a variety of ways to purchase cable, and it's important to understand that. And for a lot of our clients, that's where they either need to talk to us as an agency, or not just us, but any agency, or to a rep that can really help them understand what works best for them.
Yes, thank you, Dwight. Well, definitely we have heard about reaching different markets, how to use cable advertising, but a very important question that I am sure the business owners and the sales managers in the audience are asking is the budget. That is very important. So what kind of programs or options do we have available for the audience?
Budget is one of those things where it depends on so many factors. It depends on, first of all, what type of business are you? Because you need to be competitive within your category. If you're a restaurant, you would have a different budget than if you're a car dealer or if you're a mega super furniture store. So, and because the larger tickets tend to draw from a larger market, so you advertise farther out. Restaurants tend to target from a smaller geographic market, so they're going to focus more on a smaller community. Then back to what I said earlier, it depends on who you're trying to reach. If you're trying to reach seniors, it's extremely affordable to reach seniors. We can reach teens very affordably because most teens watch very similar programming, and so we know right where they are. We can find them with a surgical precision. If you're trying to reach a more broad audience, it's gonna, or in more prime time, it's gonna be a little more. To give you some ballparks, in Riverside, we will see a typical client spend anywhere from $2,500 a month to $30,000 a month, up to our larger clients in a market.
In the market.
Our very aggressive clients might do as much as $10,000 a month in one zone. Clients who have a longer view, it's all about numbers. So you can reach people in a short period of time, or you can reach them in a long period of time. But if you're going to go in with a smaller budget, we have clients that go as low as $1,500 a month. It takes longer to get the success, but over time, it's almost like a drip method where you're just being constantly present to your audience, and over time that can be effective as well. Just understand that with a smaller budget, it does take a little longer to get the results.
But you just have to be consistent.
Consistency is the key.
And it's one thing that we try to make sure that clients understand that is when they go into any type of advertising, but say cable advertising, they need to go in with the mindset that they need to spend at least 6 months in that new medium. Because we've had clients get results in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Doug, or Dean's a good example of that. When we first convinced them to try cable advertising, I think the first month sales went up about 10%. They came back to us and said, wow, we only spent this much, what if we spent more? And I said, well, you spend more, you'll get more. And so they came back and asked us, what did I think they should spend? And I gave them a budget. And I think they nearly doubled their sales in 3 to 4 months, which was pretty significant. So, but it's a good rule of thumb for clients to understand that they need to budget at least 6 months worth of advertising revenue to be able to test that market. The nice thing about that is that most of the cable companies occasionally have what they call, I don't know what you call them.
Discount packages.
Discount packages, where you can get in for $1,000 or $1,500 to test that market, and usually those last 3 or 4 months. And if you get in one of those, it's a good way to try cable marketing and see how effective it is. But if it's working for you, then you really need to sit down and say, what do I need to spend? And that's what Dean did. They came back and said, hey, Dwight, we've tried cable. We think it's going to be effective for us. Okay. What do we really realistically need to spend monthly to meet our goals? And they did that, and they met their goals.
Yeah, and that's exactly the approach that an advertiser should be approaching a business owner. A mistake that is very common is folks will try to figure out, they'll try to calculate what's the least amount they can do for the least amount of period and still get results. Yes. And it's at that point, you're almost better at the gambling table, playing craps, because it's a gamble. So what you want to do is, as Dwight said, if you can't commit for 6 months, do something else. Okay. Because, and we have clients who say, well, let me try this for 4 weeks. And so I always tell clients when they say, we're going to try it for 4 weeks, I say, well, let me save you some money. We're going to pretend like we're 4 weeks down the road. You're telling me it didn't work, and I'm telling you I told you so. Because that's exactly the conversation we're going to have in 4 weeks, because it just doesn't work that quickly. It takes time for enough people to see your commercial, enough times to remember you, and then they also have to need your product. Yes. So once they remember you, you're not home yet. That process really is 6 to 8 weeks before you're going to really make a mark with that consumer's mind. And then they have to come into your buying cycle. So in that first 3 months is where businesses really can see an impact. The other thing is, when you look for the impact, and I think you can speak to this, don't count the people who say, I saw your commercial. Don't count, no one's bringing a TV set in, but look at the bottom line. Look at, if you've added television to your marketing, 3 months down the road, look at your pacing, look at your year-to-year trends. And you should see if you have a good solid commercial with a good message that differentiates you from your competition, you should be seeing an actual impact in your bottom line, in your profits. Yes. That's how you measure effective television advertising. Not based on people calling a certain type of phone number, or people coming in and saying, "Hey, I saw you," or marking off a survey when your associate asked, "How'd you hear about us?" Because television will impact your bottom line, but when it works really effectively, people either they don't know it impacted them, or they don't want to admit it. I mean, think about it. You walk into Walmart, and if they ask you what brought you in today, you're going to say, I need a hammer. You're not going to say, well, I've been seeing your commercials at home. It's just not how you think about it.
Yes.
So the product becomes something you just know. And that's how effective television advertising works, and that's why it takes time to do it.
Yes,
And again,
that's how they
Dean
have
can
to
kind
see.
of expand upon that, because they track their sales almost weekly.
Absolutely.
And so he can talk directly about how he saw the effects of advertising, not only when we first began, but he continues to track that even today.
That would lead us into a good response to tell us how you see your initial investment coming back to you. How many times over, within what amount of time?
It's been unbelievable. I mean, since we started the advertising, like Dwight alluded to, I mean, it really helped us put us on the map, established our presence in the market, and now as time goes on, we can go out and during certain times of the year, maybe where we see kind of a softness, year-to-year trend that traditionally a certain time of year that we're going to get a little soft, we'll come in and we'll hit the advertising a little harder. And sure enough, we've actually managed to take some of those valleys out of those sales and kind of flatline, and in some cases even increase them. And it's at this point in time, like I say, we'll get 2 or 3 months out ahead of that slow sales trend, and we'll start pushing it, and we'll work ourselves right through that sales trend, and we're like, well, look at there. The other is that one of the things that staying on these markets in a certain presence is also that reminder. I mean, we do a lot of return guests at our restaurant, and it's amazing the amount of people that will come in, a little bit different from what Doug said, and they'll say, hey, I did see you guys on TV, or, we were here, and, you guys are kind of off the beaten path down here in Riverside and where you're at, and we're on the other side of town, and we kind of forgot about you, and we sat down the other day, and there you are, and we're like, gosh, we got to go to Ancho's. I mean, we forgot all about that. That place is great, or whatever. Yes. And they will come in, and it's really kind of nice that that you have that kind of that feedback or the response. And some of it is the people come in and say, I like your commercial. I like how it looks. You guys have great presentation.
Yes. And then they like the product.
There you go. That's the key. That's the key. Once you bring them in, is then to take care of them,
Coming back.
Yes.
keep them coming
And
back.
that's a very good, important point that I would really like to stress, that advertising will get people to walk you through your door.
Yes.
But that will not make you successful. You have to have a successful business. You have to run a successful business. I can get people to come to your door, but if you cannot get them to come back, advertising won't help you. So before you even start your advertising campaign, you really need to think about your business and how you run your business.
And well, I am sure that the business owners out there are also wondering how creative they need to be. Do you help them produce the commercial, or do they need to find people to produce it for them and then come to you? How does that work?
I think both Doug and I can answer that. As an agency, we're one of the few agencies that has our own in-house television production company. So we're able to produce those ads for the client. And I would tell any client, spend your money on your ad first. The better your ad, the more effective it will be. And what I mean by that is if you do a very poor ad, you may get 10% return on that ad. Where if you do a very high quality ad, you'll get a much better return on your investment. And that's one thing we've done with Ancho's, is to really make sure that their branding looks right. It's really all about branding. So taking the time to deliver a good message, a strong message, is very important. But what a lot of clients want to do is they want to put all their information in 30 seconds, and you can't do that. if you have more information that you need to relay to your customers than can be done comfortably in 30 seconds, then you need to produce multiple commercials and rotate them accordingly. But you can't do it all in 30 seconds. And I've seen commercials where they try to do that. A good example is if you've ever been on a freeway and you've seen a billboard and it's got 50 words on it, you can't read it.
Yes.
You couldn't read 3 or 4. You could only put 5 to 8 words on a billboard. Same thing with television. You've got to really take the time and money to spend on that, and you want to continually update those ads. It's not something. A good example is I was watching television the other day, and the clapper came on, and that ad was probably produced 20 years ago, and they've never replaced it. So I think they would get much more effective return on their investment if they updated their ads.
Yeah. You should update it at least 4 times a year. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul, but there needs to be something changed because people will start tuning out on the commercial when they've seen it enough times, and then it becomes almost invisible to them. So changing out that commercial is important. Time Warner, we have our own production studios as well. We can help you with the creative. But to answer your question, I want to just take a step back because any producer worth their salt is going to give you a creative product. I mean, it's going to be an original product. It's going to have, unless it's just people standing in front of a stack of books and shaking hands, it's going to be a creative commercial. I like to tell customers that it's more than just having a good-looking commercial to get an effective campaign. You have to, back to what Dwight was saying, it's about business first. And if you're going to be successful in today's market, you can't try to be all things to all people. And before you start doing your television commercial, you really have to have a good understanding of what makes me different than the competitor. What makes me different than the other guys? It's too expensive to be Walmart. These days it's too expensive to be Big Five. So you need to be the guy selling the left-handed golf clubs. You need to find a niche and differentiate yourself with that niche. In LA, we have there's lawyers everywhere. A lot of people doing personal injury, and there's a lawyer, Russ Brown, that specializes in motorcycle accident victims. That's a good example of someone who's really taken a niche and differentiated. So when someone is in that situation, they're thinking of that guy first. That same approach, the phrase is there's riches and niches, and that same approach can be applied to any business. Don't try to be, it's the way the human brain works. You can't possibly remember more than 3 or 4 any individual companies with any individual category. So if you can't be the top 3 rungs of a category, move to a smaller category and become the top rung. And once you've done that, focus that message into all of your creative. So everything you do is about differentiating yourself in that niche. That's how you become successful in business today. It's just unless you've been around for a long time, you have to differentiate yourself and you have to find that niche. And once you do that, the commercials create themselves. The ad campaigns create themselves because you don't have to scratch your head thinking, well, what are we going to do to make people look at this? You say, well, we know exactly who we're trying to reach. We know exactly what we need to say, and then it's just a matter of making it look pretty and making it something that people will engage with.
Well, we're going to go back to Dean, so you can tell us more about your marketing efforts. You use cable, but I understand that you have also used infomercials. And how does that work for you? Is that another option that we can talk to managers about?
Absolutely. I mean, we used several years ago, Dwight kind of recommended that we jump on, maybe just give infomercials a shot. And we had thought that was kind of long and drawn out, but you know what? It was a lot of fun, and we had great response to it. We, in essence, went through and produced a 30-minute infomercial, just basically designed to catch those channel surfers coming through, and we were just hoping to catch them for just a few seconds before they went back to their regular programmed television or whatever. But what we really found was kind of fun. The commercials, Dwight did a wonderful job in producing for them. We actually brought people to our infomercial where they just left their regular TV program behind and just watched the on-show infomercial in its entirety. As a matter of fact, one gal, this was years ago, came up to me and told me, she goes, you know, young man, she goes, I just love your show. I watch it every Friday. I didn't have the heart to tell her it was the same show every Friday or whatever. But the costs in that were very inexpensive, and it really hit a neat market and really kind of let people get a little bit more into and kind of buy into more of on-shows. You know, we did the infomercial, and that was something they viewed, and now they could come in and experience that themselves in the restaurant, and I think we did a real nice job matching everything up. And in the infomercial, we let people know about certain little secrets in the restaurant, and you could see that response. People come back and go, I saw that. Tell me about that. Tell me about that ribeye that you guys were talking about that on that infomercial. It's not on the menu. And it was amazing the response that we got on that.
So when people are thinking about cable marketing and infomercials, would you recommend that they begin with infomercials? It seems to be more casual.
You know, I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. I think you go out with the smaller commercials, work yourself into that market, and then if you want to really establish yourself, then work on doing the infomercials. But once again, as these gentlemen said, you got to think about your target, where you're going, and there's a lot that goes into an infomercial. So,
And that goes back to what Doug was saying earlier about finding your niche market, and my comment about if you've got more to say in 30 seconds than you can in 30 seconds. What we've done for on-shows is we have a set of normally about 4 different commercials that we run every month. One targets those who are worried about money.
Yes.
So it's an affordability commercial.
Yes.
The other one is I want a festive atmosphere, and we talk about the atmosphere of the restaurant. Or it's service. I'm personally a person that if I don't get service, I don't go back to a restaurant. So we talk about the quality of their service. So we're actually able to deliver a 2-minute message to his audience by using 4 different commercials. And going to the infomercial, yes, they're effective, but there's a much higher upfront cost and investment in producing those. So I highly recommend, like Dean said, that you start with cable, testing the water with the 30-second commercials, and then move forward.
And then move forward. Oh, okay. Well, I have another question for you, Doug. How has the DVR industry affected cable?
Here's some facts. As of the time of this taping, 3 out of 4 homes have DVRs. Of all television viewing, about 7% today is time shifted. Meaning that it was recorded at one time and then watched at a later time. Of that 7%, 57% of that is happening on broadcast channels, which is this NBC, the CBS, the ABC. About 34% is on cable. So right now it's, you know, that says 34% of 7%. So right now it's not a big impact in our industry. It might be down the road. Right now it's not. And if you think about how you use your DVR or your recorder at home, there's certain types of programming that people do record and certain types of programming that people just don't record. It's very rare that someone is going to record the news. I mean, think about it. By the time you watch it, it's already been updated.
Yes.
People also don't like to record the Monday Night Football game, the basketball game, the sports, because there's that fear that someone's going to tell you how it ended. With all our mobile technology now, you're going to find out how it ended and it's going to ruin the end.
Yes.
So people like to watch those live. What people do record is programming that we refer to as episodic, like a Survivor, American Idol, Grey's Anatomy. Programming that's on once a week, and it's not going to be repeated, and it's a show that you don't want to miss, and it has a following. So those shows tend to be on the ABCs, NBCs, and CBSs of the world. So as of right now, it's not as big of an impact in cable as it is on the broadcast folks. But we keep a close eye on that, and we're constantly keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on with the DVR so that we can make changes as necessary.
We're going to go back to Dwight. Can you tell us why should a business have an advertising agency? Is that important?
It really depends on the business and say the business's budget. One thing that an agency will do for a business is go back to what Doug was saying. We'll help them identify what their market is or what their niche is. Because a lot of business owners are so wrapped up in running their business, they're not working on their business. So
That's right.
they can't step back and really see their business. Also, for those companies that have the budgets and are looking for multiple medias or mediums to advertise, an agency has the ability to say, well, cable will work for you, or radio will work better for you, or newsprint will work better for you. We're as an agency, we're able to really pick and choose the medium that works best for a client. If you're not, if all you're going to do cable, an agency can help you. It doesn't cost you any more to purchase the medium, but you can go directly to the cable company, and their reps are very, very knowledgeable. They understand the industry. They can put together very strong strategic plans for you. But you know, for an agency, we're going to come in and we're not just going to say, okay, you need to be on cable TV, that's all you do. We've sat down with Dean a variety of times and said, what else can we do for you? Have you thought about the internet? Have you thought about the infomercials? So we'll go back as an agency and try to really help them with their strategic marketing plan as a whole, rather than just buying television only.
And I would think that absolutely what Dwight said, I mean, that has been so beneficial to us over the years, not just in the production of commercials and putting commercials out there, but is the entire strategy of the restaurant. So everything is running parallel in the same directions. And we sit down several times a year and we kind of go through, okay, here's what's coming out, because as you said, technology, things are coming at you so hard, so fast now, and you need somebody that's a little bit more tuned in. I'm kind of a technological moron per se, but I can go to Dwight and say, hey, Dwight, you know, what's going on? And he'll say, hey, Dean, this is what's happening here, and this is what's happening here, and this is what's going on with Google, and this is, and all that kind of stuff, so I can kind of channel and help me make those decisions. And you got to make those pretty quick because technology is changing pretty fast, so you better be informed.
Yes, and talking about technology, I hear a lot about using social media to market your business. What are your comments or your thoughts on people using social media to market their business? How reliable is it, and what is the return on the investment in terms of time?
Social media is for a lot of business an effective tool. For a lot of business, it's a labor-intensive tool. Yeah. So it's if you're going to use social media as a media tool, you better plan on hiring another full-time employee. It's not something you can do part-time.
Oh, okay.
So it's something you want to be very careful of. But I think Doug can talk a little bit about where the use of the internet with cable television marketing can be very effective. And I think that's really a direction for most businesses or most small businesses. If I would, as an agency, I would advise a client, you know, you can do social marketing, but there's other things that are already in place, other programs that will work much more effectively without Dean having to spend 6 or 7 hours a day looking at his Facebook or his Twitter or his LinkedIn. So I think Doug can talk a little bit more about that.
I'll speak a little bit to that. First of all, regarding social media, it's new. There's this draw to it because you can get a Facebook account for free, Twitter account's free, and so it feels like, oh, it's an inexpensive form of advertising. But as Dwight was saying, it's extremely labor intensive, and it's also a double-edged sword. When you start opening dialogue between your customers are now talking to each other because you've created that environment, it's a double-edged sword because one bad experience could flame out on you. So if you don't have someone who's managing that, so when social media, I like to say that social media is something that needs to be managed. Yes. It's not so much of a marketing tool as it is a management process, because you have to be forever on your game when you start doing social media. And you have to have someone in there. Now, online advertising is absolutely a major player and will continue to be a major player. 90% of people today are what we call double screen folks, two screens, where people are watching TV. And I'm sorry, it's 3 out of 4 people. When they're watching TV now, they have either a mobile phone in front of them, or they have an internet. They have a computer in front of them. So So people are becoming, and 90% of those folks, at least twice a week, are engaging in two-screen activity. So having a website is so important. I think it was Bill Gates recently who said that businesses who do not have an online attack plan will not be part of tomorrow's future. Just that simple. And that doesn't mean having all social media. It means having a very dynamic website that you can engage with your customers, make it relevant, make it updated. And then how do you get folks to there? Well, knowing that people are two screens, there's a tremendous ability that cable advertising has, or any television has, to drive traffic to the computer. As a matter of fact, one term that you'll start hearing a lot in the coming years is organic search.
Yes.
Organic search is basically the idea that you want to get your customers to know your name before they go to the internet. So when they're typing in, they're not looking for restaurants, they're not looking for Mexican restaurants, they're looking for anchos. And that's having someone search for you is the name of the game. That's what branding yourself is all about. And having a commercial that drives traffic to your website, while you know a good proportion of the people watching that commercial have an ability right now to look up more information, that's the type of creativity that in the future is going to be key to really having a successful online presence. Online is very important. Matter of fact, Time Warner, we are so much more than just cable these days. We have video on demand formats. We have online with our high-speed internet access. In many cases, is brought to the home through the cable companies. So we have that pipeline, and so our Roadrunner.com is an extremely powerful tool. We have partnerships with an audience network that allows targeting as detailed as we do with our cable, but we do it with the internet. And it has incredible tools of targeting geographically, demographically, psychographically, based on behaviors of search patterns that people have. I mean, the technology that we have today, and Time Warner is moving into that direction because that's where the customers are going. And so as a business owner, television is important, but television and online is both going to be important. And at Time Warner, we're very proud that we have great products in both those mediums.
Because people, and my wife's a good example, is she's got her iPad in her lap and it never leaves her lap while she's watching television, is that you need to start designing your ads that reflect that. I have one client that he's an orthodontist, so in his ad he says, go right now to our website and sign up for my Beautiful Smiles contest and you can win a free set of braces. So he's seeing people go to his site, so we can say the ad ran at 7 o'clock and he can look at his online analytics and say, hey, at 7:05 we got a spike in our hits to the website. So again, from an agency point of view, that's the types of things that you want to be thinking about in your advertising. Is not only do I need to create a commercial that brands my business, but how do I create a commercial now that relates to that person using their laptop or their iPad while watching the television?
Yeah, I would even go one step further. It's not enough to have a website that's yourbusiness.com. Once you've identified your niche, own that niche as well. There's a lawyer in Ohio who specializes in foreclosures, and he's branding himself as Bob Saves Homes. It's commercial, Bob Saves Homes, and his website, bobsaveshome.com. So as a business owner, start thinking about it. It's so inexpensive to own more than one website and have the name, the URL, and have them all directing to funneling into the same website. So you don't have to build 10 websites. But start thinking about how can you brand yourself in a way that makes it easier for people to organically search for you, so they never even have to type into Google. They can go straight to the URL bar and type in your brand.
Yes, branding is very important
And
in
I
a
think
business.
Dean can talk to websites, because Dean has been one of those clients that an agency is blessed with, that if we bring him an idea, it's not no. He says, well, how do we develop it to its most effective form? And Dean, if you can you talk about your website?
Yeah, ours is somewhat of an interactive website where we go through and We do testimonials from our guests. We do interviews with myself, my partner. There's spots where people, if they need catering, we have a catering portion of our business where they can access us through catering. And it really adds a little bit more, almost kind of what Dwight was saying, or exactly what Dwight was saying, is people are watching us there. You come up on TV, they say, hey, I want a little more about anchos. They click, they search anchos, comes right up, and they can go through darn near an infomercial. And the quality of that website, and I've gotten a phenomenal amount of feedback on that. The quality of your website, the quality of your commercials reflects on the quality of your business in general. And when people go in there and they see that, they go, oh my gosh, that is so professional. This is one neat place. And they say, we have to go there, or whatever. And constantly people are coming in, I saw you on the website, or I'll have somebody call me on the phone. I got you on the website right now. Are you Dean? And I'm actually on the website itself. So that stuff is always a lot of fun or whatever. But it is huge to be able to make the website work with the commercials and all the other branding or the marketing that we're doing out there.
Marketing your business seems to be, or should be, a fun experience. You need to be, that way you can develop your creative side and also have fun promoting your business. And also it seems to me that creating a relationship with your marketing department, a very close relationship with an advertising agency, is as important as creating a good relationship with your lender, with your banker. Very important. Is there anything else you would like to add? I personally have learned a lot about marketing using the cable television. Anything else you would like to add? This is a very important conversation that we have had, and I think the business owners and the sales representatives out there of the many businesses are going to be using this information in order to market the businesses that they're working on.
I would just say it's important to either sit down with an advertising agency and explore what it could do or may not do for you. It's not for everyone. And or contact the cable company and have a rep come out and explain what cable can do for you. So it's very important that you at least open that conversation, open that door, and explore the opportunities what's available to you. There are so many businesses that I talked to that said, well, you know, I thought about it and I didn't do it, and they did for years without using marketing. Finally decided to jump in the water.
Yes.
And really enjoyed a pleasant surprise, good results, but they could have done it years before. So I think it's, you know, you can't do everything. So talk to an agency, call the cable company, talk to an AE, and just learn what your options are.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. As a business, when it comes to marketing, and I can't stress it, whether you do television or online or newspapers or even the yellow pages, if they still exist when the customers finally see this. When you're marketing your business, one of the mistakes that we see people make is they budget themselves by what we call seat of their pants advertising. And that means they wait till they had a good month and they say, I have some extra money, now I'm going to do some advertising. And so what ends up happening is on the months where they're spending their money are just after the months where they had good results. So they're chasing their tail because there's a reason why there's a seasonality. It's a natural seasonality. All business has a natural seasonality. Yes. You have to understand your seasonality. And you do that by looking at the yearly trends, because you'll see that January, first week of January, second week of January, those weekly trends, you'll start seeing patterns. You'll see when you can expect your business. And smart marketers at the highest level, and there's no reason why small businesses can't do this as well. You sit down, you look at your trend, and you calculate at your, so if 8% of your sales are in November, then you should be doing 8% of your advertising in October. You want to go ahead. You want to get ahead of the curve. And don't make the mistake of looking at those trends and looking at when it drops down and saying, well, I'm doing great in November, so let's see what I can do to beef up July. There's a reason why your seasonality is lower in July. And so it's so much easier to fish where the fish are biting than it is to go and try to create opportunities where it's tougher. So whether with any marketing, I can't stress this enough. Be smart about how you approach it. Don't just go out there and wing it. Sit down, look at your sales, build a plan, and then invite in an agency. I think it's smart to talk to multiple media, and agencies and multiple agencies. You should be shopping around and trying to find those businesses that you feel are gonna have a good fit for you. And then when you're talking to agencies, you should have some familiarity with the different medias that are out there. So when you're talking to agencies, I mean, not everyone is as great as Dwight. There's some agencies out there who talk a good game, but they have a plan that they cookie cutter to multiple people.
Yes.
And so if you don't have some familiarity as a business owner of the different media, then you kind of are starting that conversation behind the eight ball. So do your own homework, and then if you want to use an agency, talk to multiple agencies, and find the one that you feel best fits the approach that you think is going to be appropriate for you. Someone you trust, and then move forward. And marketing your business is how you succeed. When times get tough, first thing people do is they pull their advertising back, when what they should be doing is closing their doors on Tuesdays, because no one comes in on Tuesdays. So they keep the doors open. They pay the salespeople on Tuesdays, and so they have a whole office running where on days that they're not being profitable, and then they cut the one thing that can actually change the tide for them.
Yes.
So marketing is so important. It's the most important thing a business owner can do after creating a strong business.
And if people do not know where to begin, I would like to recommend that they contact the SBA to talk with a consultant at the Small Business Development Center or with SCORE or the Women Business Centers, so that they can work on their marketing plan and start thinking about in which direction they would like to go and when they're ready to use cable marketing. Thank you so much for
Thanks for
being
having
at
us.
CEO's
Absolutely.
Roundtable. It's a pleasure to have you here and sharing wonderful and useful information at this program. Thank you. Thank you very
Sylvia.
much, Dean.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Dwight. It's a pleasure to have you in the program.